Hello and welcome to Weekly News Highlights. Let's begin with the keywords that made headlines this week. South Korea's ICT exports have kicked off the year at a record-breaking pace. Fueled by booming demand for AI chips, January shipments surged nearly 80% on year, driven largely by semiconductors. The National Assembly kicked off its first interpellation session of the year on Monday. Over the next 3 days, lawmakers questioned the government on a wide range of issues, from foreign policy to the economy, turning into heated partisan exchanges. South Korea and the Netherlands are stepping up cooperation in semiconductors, one of the world's most critical industries. The two countries held their first ever 2+2 high-level dialogue in Seoul on Wednesday, signaling deeper coordination on economic security and supply chains. Ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday next week, President Lee Jae-myung visited a food bank to check in on residents facing economic hardships. Addressing people's livelihoods is expected to be at the top of his agenda in the days ahead. Our Blue House correspondent Yoon Jung-min reports.
The first couple have hit the road to see what life is like for some people ahead of the major holiday next week. President Lee Jae-myung and First Lady Kim Hae-young were at a local food bank located in the country's Chungcheongbuk-do province on Wednesday.
하루에 91명이 온다는 거예요?
접수를 맞습니다.
So-called food giveaway corners, funded by the government and private firms, provide free food or essential items to anyone who visits. More than 100 such centers are in operation across the nation, and President Lee has been calling for the need to expand the program.
공짜로 주니까 아무나 와서 막 집어가지 않냐 이런 의심을 하는데 실제로 내가 알기로는 거의 없거든요.
네, 맞습니다.
The president and the first lady also stopped by a traditional market in the region to check food prices, as well as a rehabilitation center for disabled people. With the Lunar New Year holiday approaching, Lee also visited a traditional market near the Blue House on Monday. Top office officials say that livelihoods will be at the center of the president's focus this week. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
The Health Ministry has finalized its plan to expand medical school admissions despite strong opposition from doctors' groups. The government says it will gradually increase the quota over the next 5 years. Still, the medical community argues the measure falls short of addressing shortages in regional and essential care. An Sung-jin reports.
South Korea has finalized its medical school quota increase after a prolonged dispute since 2024. The government has put forth a 5-year plan to increase medical school admissions starting from the 2027 academic year to address regional and public healthcare shortages. Following a meeting by the Health and Medical Policy Deliberation Committee on Tuesday, the Health Ministry says that enrollment will, on average, increase by 668 students per year from 2027 to 2031, adding up to a total of 3,342 students over the next 5 years. The government is emphasizing that it's a gradual increase to avoid strain on medical education.
The committee has decided to implement the medical personnel expansion in stages, taking into account medical school education capacity, as well as the establishment of public and regional medical schools.
All additional places will be allocated to 32 medical schools outside the capital region and will supplement the regional doctor track, which requires graduates to work in their hometown for 10 years in an effort to strengthen local and essential healthcare services. The ministry said it will provide full support through residency and regional settlement. Compared to the previous administration's plan to add 2,000 students annually over 5 years starting in 2024, the scale of the current expansion has been reduced to roughly 1/3 of that. The Korean Medical Association criticized the plan immediately during an emergency press conference. It argued that the government's workforce projections lacked a basis.
The stated purpose of expanding medical school quotas was to address shortages in regional and essential healthcare, but the measures discussed so far fall short of providing a real solution. There seems to be no significant change from previous proposals.
The expansion of medical school quotas has been the source of intense conflict between the government and doctors since 2024. But with university-specific quotas to be finalized in April, following a review by the Education Ministry, all eyes are on how the medical community will resolve lingering issues. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
The National Assembly has wrapped up its first government questioning session of the year following 3 days of heated interpellations that concluded on Wednesday. It covered a wide range of state issues ranging from U.S. tariff pressures to regional administrative integration. Our correspondent Moon Hae-ryun joins me in the studio to tell us more. Welcome, Hae-ryun.
It's good to be here, Sujin.
It's good to have you. So Hae-ryun, let's start with the basics. So what's an interpellation session and what was particularly meaningful about this one?
So for those unfamiliar, an interpellation session is a formal process where lawmakers of the National Assembly question top government officials, from the Prime Minister to cabinet ministers and officials, on their policies and performance. This 3-day session started off on Monday with lawmakers focused on politics, diplomacy, unification and national security. The second day saw lawmakers questioning officials on economic issues, while culture, society and education were the central focus for the last day. This is the second government Q&A session under the Yi administration, but as the first took place in the fall of 2025, with discussions heavily focused on early administration issues, such as the fallout from the December 3rd martial law declaration. This is essentially the first comprehensive evaluation of the administration under the assumption of normal governance. Furthermore, with the session taking place just a week before Seollal, South Korea's Lunar New Year holiday, lawmakers are seeing it as the first major opportunity to seize the initiative in shaping public opinion.
Right, so could you walk us through some of the highlights from the discussions that took place over the 3 days?
So on the first day, a debate quickly centered on questions regarding the Trump administration's plan to reimpose higher tariffs as lawmakers passed a motion that approves the formation of a special committee to discuss a bill to support Korean investment in the U.S. This continued to be a hot topic of debate throughout the remainder of the interpellation period, with lawmakers questioning the economy, trade and budget ministers on the second day. Opposition lawmakers pressed the government on concerns surrounding rising U.S. tariff pressures and that the government may not be taking U.S. concerns over non-tariff barriers seriously enough.
Amid the critical South Korea-U.S. tariff talks, the government must restore trust in the bilateral relationship.
Meanwhile, ruling party lawmakers highlighted the Yi administration's achievements, such as South Korea's benchmark Kospi surpassing the 5,000 mark, alongside suggestions to boost the stock market going forward.
While the Kospi reaching 5,000 is a major achievement, it won't create a virtuous capital market cycle unless it feeds into the venture and innovation sector.
In the final round of government questioning, the DP highlighted the need for regional administrative integration, casting doubt on the plan's viability before the June 3rd local elections as the PPP staged a filibuster against the bill.
Unless the relevant legislation passes the National Assembly by the end of February, the merger of metropolitan governments would be virtually impossible to be completed.
The PPP countered that uneven government support and the exclusion of key provisions risk reducing the bill to a symbolic reshuffle rather than a real transfer of authority.
I see. And have there been any developments after the interpellation period this week?
Well, the special committee tasked with handling legislation tied to a special proposed law on investment in the United States was thrown into disarray shortly after its launch on Thursday, amid a clash between the rival parties. The opposition People Power Party raised objections to the ruling Democratic Party's unilateral passage of judicial reform bills in a committee meeting the day earlier, warning that the dispute could derail talks. The committee held its first plenary meeting at 9 a.m. with finance and industry ministers in attendance to review 8 bills linked to a Korea-US strategic investment memorandum signed last November. After heated exchanges, the meeting was closed to the press and later adjourned, with the chair saying discussions would continue to ensure that the investment bill is processed on time. As the panel's mandate runs through to March 9th, we'll have to keep an eye out for how talks continue to process this legislation.
All right, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
South Korea and the Netherlands are stepping up dialogue for cooperation as major semiconductor powers seeking stability in a time of geopolitical and trade uncertainty. The first ever joint ministerial dialogue kicked off in Seoul on Wednesday. Our correspondent Oh Seung reports.
Two major semiconductor powers, South Korea and the Netherlands, are deepening cooperation across key pillars of economic security. On Wednesday, the two sides held their first ever 2+2 high-level dialogue in Seoul, bringing together foreign and industry officials for a joint strategic consultation. Foreign Minister Cho Hyun and Trade Minister Yo Han-go met their Dutch counterparts, Minister David van Weijl and Minister Auke de Vries.
Our two countries have evolved into truly complementary and irreplaceable partners, especially in semiconductors and advanced technologies.
The launch of the 2+2 channel indicates that Seoul and The Hague now see each other as core partners on strategic interests. The format was agreed upon 2 years ago as the country's two leaders committed to building a semiconductor alliance.
Both countries are key players in the global semiconductor supply chain. South Korea's Samsung and SK Hynix produce over half of the world's DRAM and NAND flash memory chip supplies. The Netherlands plays a strategic role upstream. It is home to ASML, the world's monopoly in extreme ultraviolet lithography technology, essential for cutting-edge chip production. For both governments, the agenda reflects a shared push to secure stable supply chains for strategic industries, from semiconductor equipment and materials to critical raw materials required for advanced manufacturing. In their joint statement, the ministers pledged to strengthen semiconductor cooperation by linking ecosystems across small and medium enterprises and research institutions, as well as exploring joint R&D in areas such as quantum technology. Amid rising geo-economic tensions and supply chain disruption, they also agreed to expand coordination on early warning systems, export control consultations, and supply chain monitoring. The ministers further discussed the safe and responsible use of artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. Seoul and The Hague reaffirmed the need to reinforce their strategic partnership, deeming it an invaluable instrument for guaranteeing sustainable growth capacity, economic security, and technological leadership within a rules-based order.
Over the last years, we faced unprecedented global challenges and geopolitical shifts that are marked increasingly by superpowers playing power politics. Now, more than ever, for us it's necessary to work together with our partners to protect our shared interests and our shared values.
The next 2+2 dialogue will take place in 2 years' time in The Hague. Young, Arirang News.
North Korea is preparing to hold its first party congress in 5 years. The high-level meeting scheduled for late February is expected to review past achievements and outline Pyongyang's domestic and foreign policy roadmap. Kim Boo-gong has the details.
North Korea will hold its 9th Key Party Congress in late February, according to the regime's state-run Korean Central News Agency. The decision was made at the meeting of the Political Bureau of the ruling party's Central Committee on Saturday, with a resolution to convene the party congress in Pyongyang unanimously adopted. A specific date was not given, but it is later than initially expected. The Party Congress is the regime's highest decision-making body, with North Korea being a one-party state where the ruling Workers' Party oversees all state institutions. The 9th Party Congress, the first party congress since 2021, is expected to assess the achievements of the past 5 years and outline key domestic and foreign policies for the next 5 years. Eyes are especially on what the regime leader Kim Jong-un might say about South Korea, the U.S., and how he plans to enhance his political status to consolidate his rule further. At Saturday's Politburo meeting, which was presided over by Party Secretary Cho Yong-won under Kim's guidance, members discussed and approved qualifications of delegates to the Party Congress, as well as the composition of the executive body, Presidium, and Secretariat. Kim Jong-un positively evaluated the preparations for the upcoming Congress and reportedly presented principles and specific tasks for its success. Recently, North Korea has been ramping up construction of factories, hospitals, and public service facilities, apparently as evidence of accomplishments in local development projects. Remaining projects are expected to be expedited ahead of the Congress. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
With Lunar New Year just around the corner, shoppers are bracing for higher food prices. The cost of preparing a traditional ancestral rite table has gone up again this year, but there's one place in Seoul where prices are actually lower. Our Park Jinan takes us there.
As South Korea's Lunar New Year Seollal approaches, families are gathering to prepare food for the 차례 table, the ancestral rite table that is a key part of the holiday, featuring a feast of traditional dishes. According to the Seoul Agri-Fisheries and Food Corporation's latest survey on Monday, the average cost of food for a standard 6-7-person 차례 table has risen by at least 4% at traditional markets and large supermarkets. But there is one place where prices have actually fallen more than 4% from last year, making it much cheaper than retail malls. That place is Arirang Mall, located in Seoul. Here, the average cost of food for a Seollal 차례 table is 205,510 Korean won, or around 141 US dollars. This is 12.1% cheaper than the average traditional market and a whopping 24.2% cheaper than the average large supermarket. Now, take a look at this chicken. According to Seoul City estimates, prices here are nearly half of what you pay at large supermarkets, based on a standard 1.2 kilogram comparison. For shoppers, this market offers the advantage of seeing and choosing a wide range of items firsthand, from meat and seafood to vegetables and fruit, all at reasonable prices.
I bought some beef and pork. It is cheaper here since it is a wholesale market, and with my children coming over, I plan to make dumplings and prepare a variety of dishes so that we can all eat well together.
And here's how you can save even more money. The mall is running its Onnuri gift certificate event. Shoppers who spend 34,000 won or more will receive a 10,000 won gift certificate, while those who spend 67,000 won or more will get the maximum certificate for 20,000 won. The event will be run from Tuesday through Saturday. As the number of certificates is limited, the earlier you go, the better. 박준환, Arirang News.
South Korea's ICT exports have kicked off the year at a record-breaking pace. ICT exports soared to an all-time high in January, with semiconductor shipments more than doubling. Kim Do-yeon reports.
South Korea's information and communication technology sector has started the year by shattering previous records. According to the Trade Ministry on Thursday, ICT exports in January reached $29.05 billion, a 78.5% increase on year. With exports at $14.09 billion, the nation posted a massive trade surplus of $14.96 billion. This historic performance was driven almost entirely by semiconductors. Chip exports alone more than doubled to $20.55 billion. Breaking that down, the surge was led by memory chips, which skyrocketed 154.4% to $15.72 billion, fueled by demand for high-value products like HBM and DDR5 chips. This is likely to continue for the foreseeable future, as there's a severe shortage of HBM chips amid the AI boom.
Capacity will start to expand from the end of this year into 2027. However, until 2028, most supply is already locked in through long-term agreements, so the shortage will persist. Whether the shortage continues after 2028 will depend on how much demand increases by then.
This sold-out market has driven up export values across all major regions. The value of shipments to China, South Korea's largest market, rose nearly 95% to $11.76 billion. Exports to Vietnam jumped 63.6% to $4.67 billion, while exports to the European Union increased roughly 31%. Notably, exports to the United States recorded triple-digit growth, surging 110.7% to $4.62 billion as American big tech firms scramble to secure essential AI infrastructure. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
South Korea's PC rooms are evolving into major tourist attractions. With top League of Legends teams operating their own branded spaces, fans from around the world are making the trip to experience them firsthand. Jung Hae-rim takes us inside.
At first glance, this PC room in Dongdaemun-gu looks like just another typical internet cafe found on every corner in Seoul. However, take a closer look and you'll see the logos of Gen.G, a premier team in the LCK, Korea's domestic League of Legends league, displayed throughout. Here at GGX, Gen.G's team-operated PC room, Visitors can experience not only high-quality gaming environments, but also get a chance to display their love for esports. Visitors can order Korean specialties labeled as the team players' favorite foods directly from their seats. Another noticeable feature is a fan store stocked with goods from uniforms to league merchandise that fans just cannot ignore.
I visited because it was the player Duro's birthday on February 4th, and I heard there was a special promotion at the store.
But the experience goes beyond shopping and snacking. On match days, this space transforms into a mini stadium. Fans gather for viewing parties to watch live games on a giant screen, cheering together for every kill and victory.
So you have like a restaurant, you have a community zone when you can watch party. When you're a fan of this sport, Genji is such a good institution, so you got to respect that.
For games and esports lovers, not only from Korea, but around the world, PC rooms are turning into tourist spots. Over in Hongdae, a surge of tourists can be seen flocking to T1 base camp. Home to T1, the league's most popular team, led by the legendary Faker, the entire venue is dedicated to the players, with large screens along with a red and white interior. Fans can even customize their own team jerseys on site.
This atmosphere of T1 fans around, and it's kind of cool to see all this merchandise and all these kind of collectibles, and I kind of wanted to come here and check it out myself and spend a little bit of time while I'm visiting Korea to have this experience.
Fans of T1 visit a lot. It feels like people from all around the world come to Hongdae.
As the global fan base for Korean esports continues to explode, these venues are cementing their status as a must-visit tourist destinations. 정혜림, Arirang News.
South Korea has captured its first gold medal at the Milano Cortina Winter Games. Snowboarder Choi Ga-eun clinched the top spot in the women's halfpipe, becoming the youngest Olympic champion in the event despite falling on her first two runs. Kim Do-yeon has more.
From the brink of being taken off the course on a stretcher to the top of the podium, 17-year-old Choi Ga-eun took gold in the snowboard halfpipe at the Milano Cortina Winter Games on Thursday, despite falling on her first two runs. Her first fall was especially concerning, with officials even preparing a stretcher fearing a serious injury. She managed to get up, but fell again in her second run, leaving her sitting in last place with one chance left. In her third and final run, Che landed her signature switch backside 900 perfectly. Judges awarded her a massive 90.25, vaulting her past defending champion from the US, Chloe Kim, who was leading with a score of 88. When Kim fell on her own final run, Che's victory was sealed. Ironically, Che had named Kim as her idol in an interview with Korean broadcaster JTBC prior to the competition, saying Kim never gives up and stays focused to win on her third run, even if she falls on her first two. Both competitors' relationship also goes a long way back, as Kim's father helped Che train and compete in the US from a young age. Che has now broken Chloe Kim's record to become the youngest ever winner in this event while securing the nation's first ever gold in snowboarding. South Korea has stayed strong in the snowboarding section during this event as a whole, picking up a gold, a silver, and a bronze medal. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
That brings us to the end of Weekly News Highlights. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your weekend.